So as opposed to just necessarily green-red monsters, it's more of a mono-green devotion kind of deck, it seems to be. The match we're going to go ahead and get up real quick is going to be Randy. I'm playing Bant Superfriends versus Kai Nelson, and he's going to be on Esper control. So this match should take a little bit more time than the previous one. I'm not sure who got game one in this matchup, but we'll let you guys know that as soon as we can.
Yeah, we'll find out as quickly as you guys do. So it's going to be.
But assuming they're going into game two here, it looks like Randy can bring in Mistcutter Hydras, which are pretty good in the Esper matchup. He can bring in some Revoke Existence, which is great for those pesky detention spheres. Jace Memory Adept is just always another wonderful thing to bring in against control decks. Just diversifying your threats is always good. You can bring in a Negate. Do you think he might bring in this Faded Retribution? It really depends on how many cards he has in the main deck that he feels are dead in the matchup. I'm not sure if he's playing a Planeswalker-based deck, if he necessarily wants to run the risk of wrathing more of his own Planeswalkers than Kai's. And he also has a Scavenging Ooze, which, knowing Kai, it's very likely that he could actually still be playing an Elixir of Immortality. And I don't know, depending, again, on how many cards Randy feels like he has in the matchup that just aren't suitable, he might bring that in as well.
As far as Kai goes, he's got a couple of Sim Collectors, a couple of Thoughtseize, a couple of Dispels.
Oh, wow.
Not sure what kind of creature-based Randy has going for him. There's a couple of removal spells, some Archangels of Thune if he wants to be on the aggro side, some Dark Betrayals, which are not going to be useful at all, and a Last Breath. So if Randy is creature-heavy, then he has a lot of removal options. If Randy is more on the control side, then it will be easier to bring in some of the hand disruption stuff. It looks like Randy is going to be on the play, so we're going to assume that Kai won game one. Going to game two right now.
I was talking to Randy a little bit before asking him about the deck he's playing, because he's another one of our locals that tends to play some very unique decks. He likes to brew. He doesn't like to play the decks that are putting up results. He likes to try and find interesting things. I think a few weeks ago he was playing a very interesting Bug Reanimator deck before Born of the Gods came out, actually. So I guess that was like a couple months ago. But
looks like we have the deck names actually swapped around incorrectly, so I think we're going to
get that
fixed real quick.
But I don't know. It's very interesting. I could definitely see Kai bringing in the Archangel of Things. Kai's the kind of player that would think to do that. Would be on the plan of, well, Randy's probably bringing out any creature-based removal he has, so I can go ahead and bring in these creatures. That'll be fine. But that being said, he has so much incredible disruption to bring. He's got the Thought Seizes, the Dispels, and Sin Collectors that he can bring in against a deck that's trying to win with Planeswalkers. And we're talking about a deck that already has its counter magic. It already has its Attention Spheres. And I happen to have it on the inside track. Kai is actually playing at least one copy of Ashiok tonight.
Right. Oh, sweet.
So that's really exciting.
Yeah, that's a little different. We haven't seen Ashiok in Standard in quite some time. So
right. Ashiok was one of those cards that got really, really hyped when Theros came out. Everyone was convinced it was the new Nephalia Drownyard. It's not the new Nephalia Drownyard at all. It tries its best to put up a good little imitation, and it sure is. It's definitely a lot better in a matchup like this, where your opponent can't put active pressure on it. But at the same time, it's a little bit worse in a matchup like this, where you're not getting free creatures off the top of your opponent's deck.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good news for Kai is about 2/3 of the cards that he sees, he will probably be able to eventually play if he hits any creatures. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of creatures, so
yeah,
one assumes.
I mean, how sweet would it be though? Oh well, he doesn't play them though, does he? He puts them into play. I was about to say, how insane would it be to hit a Mistcutter Hydra?
Oh yeah.
But he just has to put it in and it just dies immediately.
As a 0/0, that's less exciting.
Right. Kai rocking his panda sleeves.
As per normal, something off the wall.
It's pandemonium. Ha. Clever. All right. Now, Kai is very much. A lot of players at our store tend to play the same thing every week, and that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's just those are the cards they feel comfortable playing with, or it's the deck they've been working on, and they're constantly playing it, constantly tweaking it, trying to learn the ins and outs. Kai seems to play something different every week. He's constantly trying to play what he thinks is going to be good in the local scene. I think 2 weeks ago he was on a red white burn deck, and then he actually was talking to me for a while about wanting to play red white blue because he was convinced that he wanted to be playing Sphinx's Revelation and stuff, but he also really wanted access to cards like Turn and Burn so he could deal with Stormbreath Dragon. And he just figured playing the red removal coupled with the blue and white control-y style cards that it would be a good fit. And then wouldn't he expected the deck to also fare pretty well against control because people were playing a lot of control around here. And then that week everyone showed up and rocked green red monsters and mono blue aggro, and he didn't do so well that week. So he definitely is a player that feels a lot more comfortable playing a control deck, even if it's not necessarily the best deck in the format. Kai's actually a fairly new player. He started back in Dragon's Maze, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's only been coming to the store here for about a year. Looks like both players are going down to 6 here. And,
fun and exciting.
Happy with the opening hands and getting ready to draw those 6-card hands.
That's the problem with a lot of those control decks is those opening hands, if they're not... You can't keep a very loose hand as a control deck. You have to have at least 3 or 4. That looks like an immediate mulligan.
Terrible for Kai.
There is no way he keeps this. Even on the draw, he's not that greedy.
Both of them now are going to 5, so this is going to be the exciting resource hand in the control mirror, or it's not truly a mirror, but the control on control matchup. So
5 cards.
We're excited to see this Bant Superfriends deck, and I'm afraid we're not going to get to see it at its best
if
Randy can't pull out this game on the play here. So
it's definitely something different, definitely something unique. Aside from the Ashiok, I'm pretty sure Kai's list is fairly stock. It's got the Tension Spheres, Supreme Verdicts. I think he's playing like 2 Syncopates and
some number of expels that will draw you cards and gain you life.
Yeah.
Because why would you not?
Right.
And by some number, I'm assuming it's 4.
I'm assuming 4. I've talked to a lot of people who think it might be correct to go down to 3. Like, it's a little awkward sometimes if there's multiples in the opening hand. But at the same time, you want to be able to chain them. Like, you want to cast the first Sphinx's Revelation, rip another Sphinx's Revelation, and is Kai mulling to 4?
Yeah, that was another one-lander.
Brutal.
Looks like Randy is happy with his 5. That far behind, it's a lot worse when you mull to 4 and your opponent keeps their 7 and you're on the draw. But Kai is definitely seeing a lot of one-land hands. Might want to go back to the pile shuffle here before he presents his deck again. We'll see how it works out for him. Rocking the revised Basic Islands. I noticed that in his deck. What for Basic Islands?
Sometimes I'm not sure what goes through his mind. I know for a fact he has Zendikar lands. I don't know. Sometimes he just does it to do it, I think. So we're going to 4 here. See, the problem with so many 4-card hands is it's hard to even know what's actually keepable.
Snap, keep 2 or 3 lands.
2 or 3 lands, and one of them's a scry land?
Yeah.
All right. So we get to lead on that, and it's going to ship that right to the bottom.
I'm assuming
anything. So we have a Sphinx's Revelation, a Godless Shrine, and 2 other cards. And Randy's getting in there for 2, as Mutavault is wont to do.
Yeah, Randy's going to be the aggressor on the play here against a relatively slow deck that's down a card. Not a bad strategy. Get in for as much as you can. We have Hallowed Fountain coming into play tapped, and another 2 from the Mutavault.
All right, so we played the Godless Shrine untapped?
It came into play tapped.
Okay.
So is this breeding pool. So.
Right, so we get in there for 2 again.
Getting in there for 2 again.
Mutavault's going to do some work, it looks like. Oh, there's the Ashiok.
So this is we're as excited about this as you are. We're going to see what we can hit. It looks like a Jace and a couple of lands.
Yeah,
so
Hallowed Fountain, something else. Nothing exciting, but all of a sudden there's an Ashiok. And just to remind everyone at home what it is that Ashiok actually does, since I'm sure it's been a little while.
Well, it's not going to do anything because it just got sphered. So
aww.
This is going to be pretty bad for Kai here. We might be making some quick work of this.
Well, now we have our own Mutavault, but we are also on 3 lands.
Right,
so
stone writing yourself to and getting aggro with our Mutavault.
Let's get there. I mean, well, if that's the plan, we know we're not going to block with it. If we don't have anything else to cast with it, there's absolutely no reason to not get in there for 2. It's interesting because Ashiok's ult isn't even particularly that exciting. It exiles all cards from opponent's hands and graveyards. So Ashiok literally there was just something to draw the attention away from Kai, maybe get Mutavault to attack it, or draw out a detention sphere. And randomly just milling your opponent out with its +2, I guess, isn't always the worst thing in the world, but sure would be nice. Kai really needs to draw another blue source so we can at least Sphinx's Rev for 1. Like, do something, cycle it. It's doing nothing. Oh, Thoughtseize seems really greedy. Whoa,
Randy's
but
hand is
really,
insane.
really necessary.
Yeah, I guess we take Elspeth here because
I guess we concede here. Like, how do we beat this? We're on 3 lands, like 3 cards, 2 cards in hand. And so we've got the Revoke Existence. If we draw a Detention Sphere, we've got an Aetherling that's going to be unanswerable. We have an Elspeth, which is probably going to be
probably
unanswerable.
also unanswerable.
And
we have Dispel in our hand, so like I think taking Aetherling here and just having Dispel up for either of the Planeswalkers that comes down
right.
seems like it might be the play.
I'm actually Dispel. I'm pretty sure
Is it
only
instant or
hits
sorcery?
instants and sorceries. It's been a while,
I could be wrong.
but
Or you could be correct.
can double check that
I think
real
you're
quick.
right. Looks like we took the Elspeth, so
Yeah, I'm pretty
we're
sure.
going to try really hard not to hit.
Yeah,
have
Dispel
our
only
line
counters
hit.
instants. So we're well. I don't know if I agree with taking the Elspeth there. If we know our opponent doesn't have the 6th land in hand, I think I take the Planeswalker we know he can cast.
Perhaps. I mean, he hasn't been casting it lately, and he's apparently wanting to be aggressive with his Mutavault. So.
It's worth noting that the Elspeth is actually not exiled. I don't know if that's going to be relevant, but it should probably be a different pile.
Kai is unwilling to trade Mutavault for Mutavault when he only has 3 lands.
And we rip our 4th. Okay, so now
fourth.
we've got that Sphinx's Rev. What are we going to do here? What are we going to do here?
This looks like a
Oh, we have to leave it. Yeah, we have to leave up in the counter magic, I guess. We have the Dispel for the Aetherling. Wow, Randy's Mutavault has dealt
almost all of this damage.
It has dealt 12, about to be 14 points of damage.
It's 12 because the Thoughtseize did too.
So this is absurd.
We're definitely going to get this.
Oh, Sphinx's Rev. Okay.
Yeah, that was bound to happen.
Sure.
I'm not sure why we gained some life there because
Kai is actually still
negated.
Yeah.
So Kai should still be at 4.
Wow. I definitely, I think when Randy didn't play anything, like you definitely go for it there.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I mean, you've got to get his counter magic out. Looks like Randy's drawn one of the Jace versus Vraska dual deck Jaces. I'm just gonna get in there for 2 first, which is, I guess he's just deciding if Kai can't answer it, why risk getting other things counterspelled?
Yeah, all in on the Mutavault.
All right, so it looks like we're actually gonna get to gain 2 life and draw 2 cards, or one.
One life.
One life, 1 card. I guess that land came into play tapped last turn. Oh, okay. It was just, didn't see it with the glare up there.
Pretty sure there's just literally no answer for any.
I disagree. I think definitely the way Randy's playing it a lot closer to the best than some other people would, but he's also a little constrained on mana. If he starts trying to run spells out and just gets them countered, he's not advancing his board state at all. Kai is getting more turns to draw lands and get out. Kai has done nothing to answer this Mutavault that's been knocking him down to 1 now, so there's absolutely no reason to waste resources and like just lose out to your opponent on their cards.
Looks like we're going to run a Sin Collector out there.
Guess we need a blocker. Oof.
And we're going to dispel the counter.
Okay, so it
And
looks
so
like we
Sin
get to
Collector
take,
resolves.
so we take, I guess, Celestial Flare, because we need to at least be able to trade with this Mutavault.
Be interesting to see what he takes here. I tend to agree that Celestial Flare is clearly what needs to be exiled.
I mean, arguing that someone should have run out like a Kiora as opposed to getting in there for like Kai's deck is slow enough that there's absolutely no reason to do anything other than get in there with the Mutavault every turn, honestly, because if Kai manages to stabilize, then you can start like when he's tapping out to try and stabilize, then you have free turns to play your planeswalkers and not have to worry about counter magic.
Randy ran an Aetheling out there with no open mana, but it doesn't look like Kai's going to be able to actually do anything about it, unfortunately.
Right. I doubt he brought in like any of his Doom Blades because if that's the only thing it can hit. Yeah. All right, we're gonna pack it in. I mean, a Mold of 4 is gonna be pretty close to impossible to win anyway. On the draw, it's a little bit like, and then, like you said, with your opponent going to 5 as well, like it's not the worst it could be, but all right, we get to go to game 3.
We do. We saw that the Sim Collectors did come in for Kai, which makes a lot of sense. It's definitely one of the cards that I would bring in.
Right, and we had the Revoke Existence come in from Randy.
Again, pretty standard.
I don't know if there was a match where somebody was going to bring in their Archangel Athenes, it'd probably be this one. If there was like just the game 3 when your opponent doesn't have a chance to realize you're running them in the board.
Right,
I mean, they might assume you have them in the board, but this is definitely that last game. It doesn't look like either player is going to their sideboard, so it looks like they're both pretty happy with the cards they brought in for game 2.
Right. So
I tend to be in the same boat. It's a habit I need to break, definitely, but it's.
Well, there were definitely times last week when I changed my sideboard going between game 2 and game 3 based on whether I was on the play or on the draw.
And sometimes that's necessary. And I think in this control matchup, it's
right. It's really deck relative more than anything else. Sometimes you miss sideboard in game 2 and you're like, oh, I didn't know that he had that in his deck because game 1 ended in a particular way or played out in a particular way. So
or sometimes you're just wrong. I had a really fun legacy sideboard where turn 1, I put my opponent on Merfolk because he had recently top 8 of a Merfolk and we were playing Legacy. And I resolved the turn 1 Grizzlebrand and through his counter magic. And all he had was a Wasteland. That's the only card I saw from his deck. So I assumed he was on Merfolk again because he had counter magic and he had the Wasteland. So I sideboarded in Submerges, thinking I'm going to be able to submerge his, not Submerges. What did I bring in?
I was going to say Submerge is not very good against Merfolk. Submerge is good against.
Oh no, I had it backwards. I put him on Rug Delver. I brought in the Submerges because I was expecting Rug Delver, and then game 2 he goes turn 1 Curse Catcher, and I had a Submerge in my opening hand, and I felt really embarrassed when I pitched it to Force of Will. I just had to look at him a little bit awkwardly. Right, so we were off to a pretty regular start for both decks. Looks like we have Azorius Gilgate and Mutavault to the Blue-White Scryland and a Hallowed Fountain. All right, well, it looks like both players kept their opening hands too, so I guess the turn 2 Mutavault get there is probably not going to be the game plan. Oh,
well, no,
apparently it is.
It might be. Except it's going the other way across the red zone this time, so Randy will get to untap at 18. Bunch of cards in hand, bunch of lands to play. Looks like he drew a Sphinx's Rev. It's probably going to get countered later. That's the way these games normally play out.
Oh, it looks like Kai's drawn his Ashiok.
Kai has drawn his Ashiok, but not his 4th land, so here we go. Mana issues on his side of the table.
Yeah, he still doesn't have that black mana.
Randy has made his 4th land drop. See if he starts trying to run out spells. Yep, there's a Jace. This is likely to get countered if we have there's a Dispel. Or not a spell, but a
Dissolve?
Dissolve. That's the D counter spell that I was thinking of. Looks like
Leaves
Kai
it
also
on top.
has probably a land if he left it on top. I can't imagine he would leave anything else up there. So.
Yeah, all right, and it was another Scryland as well, and we get to leave it on top again. It's always really a little unnerving when my opponent scries and leaves it on top. It's a little frustrating because you know that they're about to draw whatever they want to draw.
I think it's pretty clear from Randy's side of the board that what he wants to draw is going to be a land and not a lot else. So Kai is electing to not get aggressive this time with his Mutavault, tapping and untapping a bunch of lands. I'm going to run Ashiok out there into open mana, so let's see.
I mean, if there was any spell in Kai's deck that he wants to get countered, it's probably Ashiok.
Is he going to be willing to fight over it?
No.
Absolutely not.
All right, so we're willing to let Ashiok slide. Kai has much more important spells to resolve, but at the same time, he doesn't mind Ashiok getting out there if he can get it out there.
elects to ship the turn without attacking, potentially bluffing or indicating that he has a negate. Pretty sure I saw a negate in Randy's hand earlier, so. Kai draws another land. So looks like he's going to be catching up here. They're both now on 6 lands, so.
All right, cool. We get to
see an actual game of Magic the Gathering being played.
Not turn to Mutavault the beats.
Right. And now we're apparently doing 3-card Monty with our lands. I'm not sure what's happening.
I don't think I have ever seen a Mutavault do that much work. That was like the most ridiculous Mutavault.
Here's another Jace Architect of Thought.
Some interesting mana to leave open. I guess he could either be leaving open the counter magic or trying to get in there for 2. Other than that, I don't understand why I would leave Mutavault up as opposed to colored mana. Alright, so we get another negate. The thing about Dispel in this matchup is it is just such an all-star. People started playing it back in Old Standard, like you would Sphinx's Revelation, leaving 1 mana up. So if your opponent Sphinx's Rev in response, you could Dispel, or you could Dispel their counter magic for your Sphinx. So.
Guy's drawn another land there. I guess it's probably not going to be relevant if he's about to try to run a Jace out. Looks like he was tapping 4 mana.
I don't know. I think if he's going to play the Jace, he definitely should play the land first. He should. I mean, I guess it doesn't really make a difference, but his opponent could be playing
Syncopate for enough.
Yeah.
Or he couldn't pay for Syncopate. We had a moment where perhaps there was not going to be a resolved Jace, which was
3 lands. So if that Jace resolves, I suppose it's probably a Detention Sphere in Randy's hand.
Yeah.
I would be willing to hazard a bet. So
the question here, now that we know we have a bunch of lands.
All right, so there is a Sphere in Randy's hand.
Yeah. And there's an Ashiok in play.
Oh, great.
Because apparently he's playing 2 of them. So now he's going to get to mill some cards that we can't see.
Can't see. We can assume they are not creatures, though. Oh, Sphinx's Rev for 3. Yeah.
This is going to be exciting. We're definitely going to see a D-Sphere, and then so we had a Breeding Pool, another Sphinx's Rev, and some unknown 3rd card.
Yeah, the super awkward thing about this matchup is with the life totals constantly being increased for Sphinx's Revelation, but at the same time, the life total isn't incredibly relevant. It feels like one of those matchups that once you're going to win it, you're going to win it. It's probably going to be on the back of a resolved Planeswalker. At the same time, we've seen how much damage Mutavault can actually do.
Absolutely.
So we'll see if that doesn't happen again. Elspeth is going to be interesting. So now we've just got every single Planeswalker in play. An Ashiok, an Elspeth, and a Jace. Walk into a bar.
So what are we going to do with our Jace? Are we going to kill him, cash him in for another card or 2, or?
It's definitely a possibility, considering Kai left the card on top when he scribed with that Temple of Deceit. So if it's a card he really wants to draw right now, like if it's relevant against this Elspeth.
Cards exiled with Ashiok or Celestial Fair, Breeding Pool, and a Jace.
Okay. Well, so we've +1 Jace. So Elspeth's not going to be doing much unless she ults.
Which is a distinct possibility in this matchup.
Right.
Oh, and we also have a Pithing Needle from Randy, so it looks like we're going to be able to deal with Ashiok as well.
So whichever Walker we don't Detention Sphere, we get to Pithing Needle. Well,
of course, Kai has a bunch of open mana over there.
What's super awkward is we really want to. Okay, I was about to say we really want to Detention Sphere the Jace because he has. It's an easier potential, I guess, to answer. I guess Detention Sphere and Pithing Needle have the same.
You really don't want to Pithing Needle a card you have in your deck if at all possible, and we know that Randy is playing Jace and he's not playing Ashiok, so it seems a lot more likely that he would want to needle the Ashiok, which he did.
Right.
And then.
So we're gonna make some more creatures.
Threatening to go ultimate with this Elspeth here in about 2 turns, barring a.
Sphinx's Rev for 4 meets a negate. All right. So it looks like Randy has no cards or 3. Okay. I was about to say. All right, so Kai has scryed and left his card on top.
got a lot of open mana.
Not a lot to do with it. He's got the Sphinx's Rev.
8
He's got
mana,
the
and he's drawn
Doomblade.
another Sphinx's Rev, so there's that.
Doomblade doesn't do all too much against an army of 1/1s, though.
Yeah, definitely not what you want to be. Want to be holding in this matchup. Wasn't sure if he would bring it in. It looks like Randy's only going to be playing Aetherling, maybe, is his only creature. Haven't seen a whole lot else. So
Right. I can only assume there's a few more dead cards in Kai's main deck that he felt like he needed to bring the Doomblades in as well. Either that, or he could just be playing Doomblades main, and they're not the most dead card in his deck.
looks like we're going to go for the second Sphinx's Rev
For 5.
into a bunch of open mana again.
All right, we
And
get it
that
this
one's
time.
going to resolve.
All right, so the total's going to be
So
19.
Kai's going to get to untap with a lot of cards in hand and a lot of mana available to him,
Which is exactly where this deck wants to be.
and a reasonable life total.
All right, that is still a very large Elspeth and a lot of soldiers.
It is.
You know, it'd be insane here. Fated Retribution. I know Kai was playing one a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if he still is, but that would be the actual best thing he could possibly cast right here. Right,
You
so-
feel pretty confident that Randy does not have a counterspell, otherwise the
Sphinx's Rev would not have
have
resolved,
resolved. So if you're going to fire one of those off into a bunch of open mana, now seems to be the time to do it.
Right. So we're tapping 3 mana. It's got to be like a Detention Sphere or
It's going
something.
to be Sin Collector.
All right. So okay, we're gonna check for the counter magic before we try and resolve anything big. Oh, it looks like Randy has a Sphinx's Rev of his own in
He does.
hand. So he's probably contemplating whether he wants to run it out, and I see no reason to not run it out and try and get a counter back out.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario is you eat your opponent's counter. Best case scenario is you've traded the Sphinx's Rev.
We're being told there's only like 3 minutes left on the clock too, so this one's going to be interesting. There is, however, a 2-minute time extension since we had to drag him over and get him on camera. So, all right, so Sphinx's Rev resolves. So Kai says, all right, show me even more cards. So I saw a Detention Sphere.
Some lands.
Revoke Existence. It looks like we're taking Revoke Existence. Kai's gonna diligently take notes. This is the worst feeling in the world, is losing to cards you knew your opponent had in your hand because you forgot to take notes. That has definitely happened to me before. Like Alpha Striped, knowing my opponent had an Azorius Charm.
So we're going to play a Jace here. We're going to correct some mana tapping issues that we have here. The lands that were tapped do not make a Sin Collector. No, you do have to tap 3. There we go.
All right.
Thanks for those out there in Twitter land or Twitch land.
Definitely. Thanks for paying attention, guys.
Well, this is going to be a pile of 2 cards and a pile of Detention Sphere, so that's pretty much what's
Take the
going on there.
Detention Sphere.
Yeah.
What's awkward is Kai needs the Detention Sphere of these 1/1s.
I'm pretty sure he has the Detention Sphere.
He has the Detention Sphere Elspeth, but like he really like. Whew, this is gonna be rough. So he has to rip like another Detention Sphere, maybe a Supreme Burning Sphere. Is he holding a Hero's Downfall?
I would assume not, otherwise he would have downfalled the Elspeth there instead
Right.
of de-sphered it.
It's a Thought Season and Doomblade. All right. All right. So Randy plays another land.
Detention Sphere, the Sin Collector here. No, we're going for the other Jason, obviously.
Forgot that was even in play.
Yeah, I did too. That Jason was important. It clearly doesn't count. Oh, and the double.
We are going to
Sphere,
Detention Sphere the Sin Collector. You were right.
I
on
was
the button.
wrong. I was right. I was just late.
You were a couple steps
Early,
ahead. Yeah.
So now this
So,
is kind of bad.
Drawing running Thought Seizes is probably not where you want to be when your opponent has what, like 1-2 cards left in hand, and you know what they are. So you're like, what? You're just gonna Thought Seize, look at your lands, shock yourself, move on with your life. So scrying 1 to the bottom.
Not only that, but your opponent has lethal pretty soon with 9 guys
So
and
we're
you're
at
10 life.
Yeah, so we can't actually cast Thought Seize. We do have a Doomblade. So I can,
That
Doomblade
doesn't
is,
change the clock at all. And I think
gain us 1 life.
it does gain you 1 life,
Oh
which
man,
is
this is
clearly
looking rough.
important.
And apparently Kai is actually at 8.
So yeah, now we're definitely.
Oh, we probably missed a Shockland earlier.
Well,
Mistcutter Hydra off the, well, we're gonna Doomblade Mistcutter Hydra. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't really.
We still probably. Oh, we have a
We
Mutavault.
do.
Forgot we had Mutavault.
So we're gonna block
A
block a
1/1.
1/1 with the Mutavault.
Doomblade, the
Doomblade, the
arbitrarily large.
dead Hydra.
They didn't even bother putting counters on the Hydra. They knew something was gonna happen. Oh, he still takes 8.
Right.
Can't block enough. Doesn't have another trick.
Yep.
All right. So
So
despite
there you
losing game 1, Randy's able to win. His opponent mulled to 4 in game 2 and wins a really well fought game 3. That was a really intense back and forth. There was a lot of counter magic, a lot of Sphinx's Revelations that I think Kai cast 3 that game. I think only 2 of them resolved.
One of them obviously got countered, so.
And then Randy cast a Sphinx's Rev. Ashiok exiled a Sphinx's Rev. There were a lot of Sphinx's Revelations in the top 30 cards of those players' libraries.
I heard that card's good, so. Yeah,
Usually what
sense.
happens when people are playing blue-white, I guess. Like, if there was a card that would make me sleeve up blue-white again, it'd probably be Sphinx's Rev. That card just does so much.
Does everything that I want to do, yes. So after an exciting round 1 and a quick round 1 and an exciting round 1B, we're kind of mid-round here, getting ready for round 2. Just want to go ahead and remind everybody that our PTQ is coming up on April 19th. It is limited, so it will be Theros and One of the Gods sealed. You can pre-register and save $5 by pre-registering online if you have a PayPal account.